Welcome to the Heart Rate Variability Podcast. Each week we talk about heart rate variability and how it can be used to improve your overall health and wellness. Please consider the information in this podcast for your informational use and not medical advice. Please see your medical provider to apply any of the strategies outlined in this episode. Heart Rate Variability Podcast is a production of Optimal LLC and Optimal HRV. Check us out at optimalhrv.com. Please enjoy the show. Welcome, friends, to the Heart Rate Variability Podcast. I am Matt, and I'm here with Ina. I know we're dropping in a little early this week into your feed. Just with a quick episode, I asked Ina to do this in her role as president-elect of the Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback. Some reason, Ina, psychophysiology does not roll off my tongue all that well, so otherwise known as AAPB. And I asked Ina to join in that role today because the AAPB conference is coming up May 31st in Orlando, Florida. And I really reached out to Ina because I went for the first time last year as someone who's been an HRV nerd for several years and honestly hadn't heard of AAPB until I got connected with Ina. Went last year and was just blown away by what it helped me with my learning curve around biofeedback, mindfulness, HRV, and the fact that I just got to mingle with some of the giants of the industry. Pretty much all of them were there. And so I wanted just to introduce, because if you've heard my interviews with some of the founders, the frontiers in this field, and I've got a lot of those coming up as well. AAPB is a part of their journey. And for those of you maybe interested in integrating more biofeedback into your work, I just wanted to get this on your radar because we're taking our whole team, at least the US-based people there this year, really excited about this. So Ina is president-elect. I'll let you, because I know you can do a lot better than I did, just kind of start out on what AAPB, what is it?
Well, AAPB, the Association for Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback, and
it just so much better.
A little bit to get all those words out. AAPB is really the association for the research, science, and practical clinical work of biofeedback. I love this conference, and I have not missed one in probably maybe 15 years. I love this conference because it's a really amazing way to connect with people who are in the thick of science, people who are in the thick of clinical work. There is this amazing combination of pure research and academics and clinical work, great conversations around how to combine the two together. How do you use the science? How do you integrate the science into clinical work? And the ability to talk in depth with people who are involved in all this research, who understand every minute detail of the most complicated concepts, be able to approach them, talk to them, pick their brains, and do that in just a really friendly, welcoming, accepting environment. I gotta say, it's not very often that scientific meetings and conferences feel quite so welcoming, friendly, and accepting and educational, right? So it's not, you go for the human connection and you go for the education, and you really do get both.
Yeah, and I get jealous sometimes in the mental health field. One of my nerdy weekend hobbies is learning about quantum physics, and their conferences just seem like there's a bunch of really smart people that get together and come up with things like dark matter. Now, I know it just doesn't come up in the hallways between workshops, but this has been the closest I've come in our field to that, where you can literally sit down at a table with and be welcome to that table with not only someone like Ina, who is a giant in this field. You also got some folks that were tinkering around in their basement to start biofeedback. And those people will sit in your workshops. You can go to their workshops. They're incredibly, like you said, welcoming to that. And AAPB is, it's one of those conferences that is, and I know the one I went to was like the first post-COVID conference, a little smaller, but it just felt like a family that you were quickly kind of welcomed into, especially me, like all my high energy, all my crazy questions, just really good. Can you outline a little bit, because I think for our audience there's a one of the keynote speakers I'm really excited about, because he's going to be maybe sitting down at one of those tables and I can talk to him, but just kind of tell what is in store in this year's conference specifically.
Yeah, so we have amazing keynote speakers. I think who I know who you're talking about, Stephen Porges, Dr. Stephen Porges, who is the founder of the polyvagal theory. He is an amazingly nice person, brilliant and nice. And yes, I'm certainly hoping to be, to get to sit down and chat with him. And I imagine that's going to be really possible at this conference, whereas it may or may not be somewhere else. We also have Dr. Ruth Lanius, who is a trauma and neuroscience, neurofeedback expert. And I can't wait to pick her brain about all the different things that are going on in our brains, when we're traumatized, and what we can do to help people. The theme of this year's conference is, healing the traumatized brain. So, we can do that from the polyvagal perspective. We can do that from the neuroscience perspective. And then we also have Dr. Bruno de Michelis, who is a sports psychologist, has worked with various soccer teams and other athletes, and has brought those athletes to remarkable heights. So hearing how he uses biofeedback for that, and we may not be able to sit down with him because I think his presentation is virtual, but still get to hear from him. And he doesn't actually speak as often nowadays as I may have wanted him to. So this is just a really amazing opportunity to do that. I guess I will add that you'll have a chance to hear from Dr. Polaire and Dr. Dick Gevertz, Dr. Fred Schaefer, Dr. Eric Pepper, Dr. Don Moss. Yes, there are all these people whose names we see everywhere, right? One of my first conferences, I got to talk to Dr. Polaire, and he just kind of told me about how he went to Russia and met up with Yevgeny Vashilo and figured out this whole HRV thing, and I was just awestruck. And it was just a friendly conversation. He was so happy to share the story. So I hope that a lot of our audience give yourself the chance to hear from these people that have been there from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique opportunity in a field that I think is going to really rapidly grow. This is where to be. If you're a fan of this podcast, I would really recommend going to aapb.org. Also, and then we are not associated with them officially in any way. I am a member. I got my first Journal of Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback journal. I have never opened a journal. I have never in my professional career, opened a journal and looked at the table of content and said, I got to read all these articles. So there's a lot of benefit, including discounts on conferences. The conferences can also be attended virtually. So there is an early bird special, which is why I wanted to get this out pretty much immediately, and just wanted to put this on folks' radar. Even if you can't attend the conference this year, I just wanted to get AAPB on folks' radar as well. I've been just really impressed with it. It's still, and I say this with being complimentary, kind of still a grassroots sort of feel. And you get to get in on, it might not be the ground floor, but it's, around the second floor of this movement, which I appreciate doing. So, Ina, I really thank you for joining me today. And just like I said, wanted to get this on listeners' radar. It's a great opportunity and to highlight a great organization. And we're going to have a booth there with Optimal. So, I'm not a huge fan of booth time, so come hang out with me. If nothing else, keep me company at the booth, nerd out with me about HRV. I would love to talk with you there as well as Dave's going to be there. Ina's going to be there. Anna, who's been on the podcast, will be there. Jeff will be there. So you can meet the whole Optimal team, at least our US-based team as well. So Ina, thank you so much. Any final words before we wrap up?
Just to say that I hope to see a lot of our listeners there. Please come say hi. I'd love to meet you.
Awesome. Everybody have a wonderful week, and you will see the book series will continue on Thursday. Thanks a lot, everybody.